Have you ever heard the name Mansa Musa? Chances are you have, probably in a headline that calls him the richest person in history, with a fortune of $400 billion. It's a mind-boggling number, right? But what if I told you that trying to put a dollar amount on his wealth is like trying to catch smoke with your hands? The real story is far more complex and honestly, way more interesting than any clickbait headline. Today, we're going to dive deep into the world of the 14th century West African emperor whose riches were so vast, they literally broke an entire country's economy. But his story is about so much more than just gold. So who was Mansa Musa really? And how did he become a legend? Let's travel back to the 14th century. The Mali Empire, located in West Africa, was a powerhouse, and at its helm was Mansa Musa. The word Mansa means emperor, and Musa was the 10th Mansa of this incredible empire. Now, when we talk about his wealth, we're not just talking about a guy with a big bank account. His fortune was woven into the very fabric of his empire. Imagine this. The lands of the Mali Empire sat on top of some of the world's most massive gold deposits. At that time, it was estimated that about half of the entire Old World's gold came from this region. As the emperor, Mansa Musa had almost unlimited access to this glittering resource. It wasn't just personal wealth, it was the national treasury, and he was the one holding the keys. But it wasn't just about digging gold out of the ground. Location, location, location. The Mali Empire was perfectly positioned to control the trans-Saharan trade routes. Think of these routes as the superhighways of the medieval world, connecting West Africa with North Africa, the Middle East, and even Europe. And what was being traded? You guessed it, gold. But also salt, which was so valuable back then it was sometimes traded for its weight in gold. Add copper, ivory, and other precious goods to the mix, and you have a commercial empire generating staggering amounts of revenue. Mansa Musa, being a savvy ruler, didn't just let this trade happen for free. He implemented a sophisticated system of taxes on all goods passing through his lands and collected tributes from the regions under his control. Every caravan, every merchant, every deal contributed to the emperor's coffers. So, his wealth wasn't just a static pile of gold. It was a constantly flowing river of income from a vast and powerful economic machine. So how did the world even find out about this incredibly wealthy emperor tucked away in West Africa? It all comes down to one legendary event: his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324. This wasn't just a religious journey, it was a statement. It was a meticulously planned spectacle designed to announce the Mali Empire's arrival on the world stage. And what a spectacle it was. Accounts from the time describe a caravan of epic proportions. We're talking about a procession that included up to 60,000 men. Imagine a moving city snaking its way across the desert. Among them were thousands of Musa's personal attendants, soldiers, and officials. And then there was the gold. Reports claim he brought between 80 and 100 camels, each one loaded down with hundreds of pounds of pure gold dust. This wasn't just for travel expenses. This was for showing off. When this golden procession arrived in Cairo, Egypt, it was like nothing the city had ever seen. For 3 months, Mansa Musa stayed in Cairo, and he spent money like it was going out of style. He gave gold away as gifts to dignitaries, officials, and even to the poor people on the streets. He was so generous, so lavish with his spending, that he single-handedly flooded the market with gold. The result? The value of gold in Cairo plummeted and didn't recover for over a decade. He literally broke the regional economy just by being generous. Can you imagine one person having that much economic impact today? It would be like a single tourist visiting a country and causing its currency to crash. The stories of this journey spread like wildfire. Traders, scholars, and pilgrims carried the tale of the fabulously wealthy king from Mali all across the Muslim world and eventually into Europe. This is how Mansa Musa became a figure of legend. His fame was immortalized in the 1375 Catalan Atlas, one of the most important world maps of the medieval period. On this map, there's a depiction of a black king sitting on a throne in the heart of West Africa, wearing a golden crown and holding a massive gold nugget. That king was Mansa Musa. For Europeans who knew very little about Africa beyond the coast, this map cemented the image of Mali as a fabled land of unimaginable riches, a real-life El Dorado. This single journey put his empire, quite literally, on the map. Now, let's get back to that $400 billion figure you see everywhere. Is it true? Well, yes and no. The truth is, it's impossible to put an accurate modern dollar value on Mansa Musa's wealth. Historians agree on this. Why? Because our modern concept of wealth is based on things like stocks, bonds, real estate holdings, and liquid cash, all things we can track and value in a global market. A 14th century emperor's wealth doesn't work that way. His fortune was his empire. How do you put a price on controlling half the world's gold supply when gold was the standard of value? How do you calculate the GDP of an empire that controlled the most important trade routes of its time? The numbers we see today are really just thought experiments, attempts to help our modern minds grasp the sheer scale of his riches. It's a way of saying he was wealthier than anyone we can compare him to today. Another key distinction is the difference between personal and imperial wealth. Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk's fortunes are their own, as private citizens. Mansa Musa's wealth was inseparable from his position as emperor. He controlled the resources of his entire empire, but it wasn't a personal bank account in the way we think of it. It was the treasury of a nation that he commanded. It's more accurate to say he wielded the immense economic power of the Mali Empire. Interestingly, while most stories focus on his incredible generosity, some medieval sources tell a slightly different tale. They suggest that he spent so extravagantly on his pilgrimage that on his way home from Mecca, he actually ran out of money and had to borrow from merchants in Cairo at high interest rates. Whether this is true or just a rumor is hard to say, which just goes to show how difficult it can be to get a perfectly clear picture from sources that are 700 years old. But to only focus on Mansa Musa's gold is to miss the most important part of his legacy. He wasn't just a rich guy. He was a nation builder, a visionary who used his immense resources to transform his empire into a center of culture and learning. When he returned from his pilgrimage, he didn't just bring back souvenirs. He brought back the brightest minds he could find, scholars, architects, and poets from across the Islamic world. He then put them to work. He launched a massive building program, commissioning grand mosques and universities, particularly in the legendary city of Timbuktu. The famous Jingwereber Mosque in Timbuktu, some parts of which still stand today, was built during his reign. He turned his cities into architectural marvels. Under his patronage, Timbuktu flourished and became one of the most important intellectual hubs in the world. It was a place where scholars gathered to debate, study, and write. The Sankore University became a renowned center for learning, attracting students and professors from all over Africa and the Middle East to study law, medicine, astronomy, and theology. Mansa Musa's investment in education and culture created a golden age for West Africa. This is his true legacy. The gold may be gone, and the Mali Empire eventually declined, but the intellectual and cultural foundations he laid endured for centuries. He proved that true wealth isn't just about what you have, but what you build with it. Mansa Musa was more than just the richest man in history. He was a ruler who shaped a civilization, whose legacy is written not just in gold, but in the history of knowledge and culture itself. So, the next time you see a headline about Mansa Musa's incredible fortune, remember the real story. Remember the emperor who controlled a river of gold, who journeyed across a continent in a display of power that shook the world, and who most importantly invested his wealth into creating a lasting legacy of learning and culture that still echoes today. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past as fascinating as I did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical deep dive. See you next time.